experiencing an obesity epidemic. 73.6%, roughly 2 out of 3 adults in the United States are overweight and or obese. Over 80% of people who lose weight will regain it within 3 years. The annual loss in revenue and production in the United States is an estimated $173 billion from obesity. Type 2 diabetes costs $327 billion, and heart disease and stroke costs $147 billion. This is a world epidemic. 1 out of 8 people are obese in the world, but there is hope. Welcome to Simply Nutrition's podcast, Lessons in Nutrition, where health meets simplicity. I am Stacey Pothier, certified nutritional consultant and owner of Simply Nutrition. Today we have a dear friend of mine, a very kind woman who I love, Marcelle Epley. Marcelle, I'm going to tell them a little bit about you, and thank you for being here today. I know how busy you are.
My pleasure.
Marcelle has her MBA. Let's see, gosh, this is a lot. She's brilliant. MBA, CSPG, owner and CEO of Zella Drives Consulting. Marcelle Epley has been deeply involved in national, regional, and local nonprofit and corporate community programs for over 25 years. Her creation and implementation of bold, unprecedented community leadership programs has resulted in historical outcomes. Marcelle built the Long Beach Media Collaborative, one of the first journalism collaboratives in the nation. She engaged 4 competitive media organizations to partner and highlight solutions to critical issues in vulnerable communities. Marcelle's actions inspired City Council action to prioritize closing the digital divide 4 years before the coronavirus pandemic. Her proactive actions paved the road to bridge the gap between nonprofits and government at unprecedented speed and efficiency in advance of the critical need for remote learning and before other cities could have such partnerships in place. 2 years before the coronavirus pandemic, and utilizing her emergency and disaster management training, she proactively established a disaster relief fund with civic leadership just in case that resulted in the rapid injection of $1.5 million in charitable donations to support vulnerable communities within 3 months' time. Inspired by a unique community engagement project, On the Table, tested in Chicago, Marcelle created Around the Table and brought over 5,000 Long Beach residents together in one day to talk about what they love about their city and how they can make it even better. This resulted in better understanding of the homeless pandemic and how everyone can be a part of the solution alongside government and nonprofits. Since 2014, as president and CEO of the Long Beach Community Foundation, Marcelle has grown assets by over 200% and established the organization from an unknown entity to a significant agent of the region. She has led large teams and board of directors while coordinating with local and national elected officials through challenging times, including the Great Recession. Her experience guides leadership teams through thoughtful strategic planning, vision, mission, and values alignment paired with conservative financial plans that set challenging yet attainable growth goals, actions, and objectives. Marcelle's success flows through her dedicated teams that she guides to maintain public trust, achieve high standards, ethics, quality work, and customer service, and to treat all people with dignity and respect while prioritizing continuous learning, growth, and joy in work. Marcelle earned her BA and MBA from California State University, Long Beach, and certification as a specialist in planned giving from the American Institute of Philanthropic Studies. She serves on several nonprofit boards and committees, including the Long Beach Rotary Club. Woo! That's where we met. Long Beach Rotary Scholarship Foundation, Long Beach City College Foundation, California State University, Long Beach Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Long Beach Memorial Medical Center, and Long Beach Estate Planning and Trust Council. She has garnered several honors throughout her career for her efforts to improve the community, including Rotarian of the Year, the Long Beach City's Prosecutors Impact Award, the Long Beach Mayor's 40 Under 40 honoree, the Camerata Beverly O'Neill Arts and Leadership Award, and Nonprofit Leader of the Year by the Los Angeles Business Journal. Having traveled nationally and internationally her entire life, she most enjoys her hometown of Long Beach, California, playing sports and music with her 2 sons and singing for local bands. She's an amazing singer. She's especially proud of the accomplishment of the 500 plus members of a community jogging club she started in 2015 and completing many triathlons, including a 140.6 mile Ironman. Marcelle, well done.
Is the interview over now? That took a long time. I'm so sorry.
No, I weeded it down, but that was there's too much important to leave anything out. So welcome.
Thank you. Yes. Well, if you're still listening, audience, I know we're going to go and have a conversation. And Stacy professed her love for me, but I also want to press my love for this woman. And if you're listening, I strongly encourage you, of course you're listening, but I strongly encourage you to follow this amazing woman because she has put her entire life into this organization, leaving a very stable, predictable career and following her heart and really her passion and something she's exceptionally good at to really put her life into it, and certainly has changed my life. I'm really honored to be here today, and I'm so honored that you asked me. When she asked me, I was like, duh. I would love nothing more than to talk about the profound difference that you've made in my life. And I've talked about you like a celebrity to anybody who will listen. But I wanted to pause real quick because that bio that Stacy just read, and for the women and men that are listening to this and looking for some kind of a life change, looking to make your life better, and it does start with nutrition. It also starts with thinking about yourself differently, and it starts with the language. If you were to read my bio last year, it did not sound like that, and I didn't have capacity to write that, right? I did, but I didn't have the mental capacity, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think the strongest leader, and as a leader in this community, the strongest leader knows when they're not good at something. And they think about the people around them who are and reach out for help. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard to do for some of us, especially us A-type people. Right? Because we know everything. We don't need any help. At least that's how I'm built or inflicted. In any case, it dawned on me one day as I was asked for my bio, and Zella Drives Consulting is consulting, and Long Beach Community Foundation is my regular 9-to-5 job. And I was asked for my bio for something consulting, and I paused and I read it. And I was just kind of bored of it. It was very just, I work here for this long and I'm on these boards, blah-de-de-blah. And part of my journey, my nutrition journey and my mental journey, and my life dramatically changed last year, I suddenly thought, wait a minute. I've done a lot of profoundly cool stuff. It's not reflected in here. And I took a moment to stop and think. And I just started writing. And a dear friend of mine, Summer Temple, kept encouraging me to journal. I don't have time for that. But I do it in my phone. It makes it easy. And I started journaling with that thought of, I'm a badass. Because that's what people tell me, right? We're our worst critics. I'm like, no, we deflect. No, thanks.
Right.
Anyway, I start journaling. And I realized, Stacy, that I caused some major community change, and I've never given myself credit for it. Mm-hmm. Other people have told me, but we don't, as part of our own mental health and our own acceptance of our self-worth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never heard it I don't know. I don't know what it was that day when I was asked for my bio. Mm-hmm. And maybe, and everybody listening, I think you've had something go on in your life where you've had trauma, and sometimes you take it and you become stronger, and sometimes you become weaker, or a combination of the both. And I've gone up and down a lot, but I will tell you, for whatever reason that day, whether it was God or it was just that glass of wine, or I don't know, or a combination of both, or my circle of friends around me, I said, I'm going to redraft that. I'm going to push my power button. But I will tell you, it was still not what you just heard. So I reached out to my lifeline. Mm-hmm. I said, friend, get this. I said, help me out. I'm going to send this to who asked for it. But tell me if it's too conceited, because I feel like it's too me. It's too cocky. Mm-hmm. He said, it's way too passive.
See, I would struggle with that.
Right?
Definitely.
I think a lot of women do.
Right. Definitely.
We don't.
Self-promotion is just
self-promotion
really
is the devil.
It's hard.
We don't do it enough, because I think in our traditional roles and the way we're made up biologically is we're caretakers. Right. And we take care of others.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
Not to be like sexist against ourselves, but I think it's just the way we're wired.
Nurturers, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we are the most powerful creatures on this planet because we are empathetic and we are emotional, but we're extraordinarily intelligent. I sent it to my friend, and he dropped everything, and he redrafted it like word choice.
Okay.
I was referring to myself as someone else, and I was still giving credit to other people. He said, knock off that flim flam.
Okay.
And I rewired myself, and and all of a sudden it was like the Matrix. I was like, I get it. And it doesn't feel cocky anymore. It doesn't feel conceited. It feels normal. It's like I crossed over into a realm where I can feel normal about talking about my accomplishments. And I feel okay with it.
That's a huge breakthrough.
It is.
That's a huge breakthrough.
So when you go on your nutrition journey, and I know you're going to ask me some questions, but I just wanted to start with that because I think it's important. And I'd be curious when you heard that if it sounded like too much. If it didn't, then think about how you describe yourself. If you were to write your bio, or you were to write like, who am I and what have I, I live here and I have this and I do this. But think about it, because I think that if you write about yourself and just keep editing it and find your self-worth, send it to a friend. Does that describe me? And have them tell you, like,
yeah, that's good.
Like, girl, no way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because if you feel good,
that's
where nutrition starts, I think.
That is true. Yeah, mental health and positive, and the way you look at yourself. And and I think even that just that in a desire to stay humble, there can be you can go too far in that direction to where, like you said, you're not. I mean, you know me, my faith is strong in the Lord, and so it's like, okay, if I really truly believe that he made me and gives me the strength to do the things I do, and then I'm partnering in life in making those choices, right? Because we have to make the choice to get up and do it. But if I really believe that, if you look at a rose is gorgeous and a daisy's gorgeous, right? So I think a lot of times women were so hard, and I wish I had that. I looked at that, and I will tie this all in. But I think if what he makes is beautiful, then every time we align our heart with doing for others, which is everything you just wrote, is truly about others. And I don't think there's much greater love than that.
Right. Well, it's the oxygen mask on the airplane analogy. When I worked for an exceptional woman who I'm still friends with 20 years ago, she asked me the question. She said, and I was a new mother. She said, if there was, and she was teaching me, and I didn't know she was teaching me, but I still remember to this day, she said, if there was one meal left on the earth, who would eat it, you or your children? And I said, well, my children, of course.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you're all dead.
Oh, that's
And I was
so
like,
good.
what? She said, no, because you have to feed yourself first.
So good.
And that was 20 years ago, and I'm still learning that, right?
Yeah.
So feed yourself first, right? So taking time for yourself and prioritizing your own health could not be more important. And when I started to work with Stacy, because I met her we were in Rotary together, and I remember that she was very, very knowledgeable about nutrition, and she had this company. And I grew up in a French family, and Mediterranean diet and all that. So I thought I knew everything. I found out I know nothing. That's like a fraction of it, right? And I put that in the back of my mind, and I'm the type of person, I don't need consultants. I don't need any of that stuff. But back to what I said earlier, you do need people, right? And I needed Stacy because I was training for the Ironman.
Yes, I remember.
And remember I told you, I said, I don't want to get there and be like, oh man, I should have done that, or I should have done that. Because if you don't finish certain time points, they kick you out and you got to train for a year. So I was throwing everything at it. So investment in that knowledge is forever.
Yes.
Everything I learned from you is forever.
Oh,
it never goes away. And it's probably going not only to extend my life, but I pass it down to my kids.
Yes.
It's forever. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you did the hard work.
I most definitely,
You're a great client
definitely did. Eating blueberries and walnuts with olive oil and was MCT oil. It was actually quite good. It wasn't bad, but man, you got me through it.
You were amazing. Yeah. Yes. And you did your Ironman, which is incredible.
I did, and for the athletes on here, or the aspiring athletes, I want to mention that all of my athlete mates were like, you can't do an Ironman on keto.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know, I just don't know how to get off of it. I don't know how to get off the train because I'm on it. And you were working with me all the time. You were exceptional. And then I started doing some reading, and actually, you can.
Fat is an incredible fuel source when you do it right. When you do it,
right, you can.
When you do it healthy in the way you did, and you even did it with your blood. I mean, blood type. You did a healthy. There's a way to do keto that's not harmful and dangerous and.
Yeah, it was balanced. Yeah. It was balanced, and not only that, when you're exercising, and let's say some of you out there are like, I'm going to start walking, or I'm going to start going to the gym, or whatever. There's all these, muscle mass building, or shakes, or supplements, or things you squirt in your mouth and chews, and all these things that are full of chemicals, and people take them and whatever. But it's carb based, right? And athletes are just wired and trained for carb consumption. And what Stacy taught me is it's just like a roller coaster. You just need to doing it. And I decided at some point that I'm getting so close to the big competition. It's not a competition. It's just whatever, a race, a long race that I'm in, and I don't want to change things now.
Right.
Because if I do, I don't know how to recalibrate.
Right.
And I read articles that there's people that have done that before, and it's that fuel source that just is endless. So I want to say this about that to the 530 Club in Long Beach. I beat you, Arnaldo Casillas.
With fat as your fuel.
With fat as my fuel, and I hope you see this, and if you don't, I'm going to send it to you on YouTube. But I did.
I love
and there are people, men, more senior than me and more experienced. And I was having the time of my life. My energy source was constant, stable. I never crashed my bike. I also never crashed my energy
body. Right.
I felt great. It was wonderful. And I had this girl in my back pocket.
Right? I mean, it was a crazy
dear
event.
Lord. thunderstorms like you wouldn't believe. I prayed so hard.
Great. That's for another podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, to your questions. I'm ready.
Yes. All right. So first question is, well, you've answered some of those just with your, what you did with the triathlon, but how do you, okay, so you've not only did you achieve your goal and you lost some weight in the process, even though you're very healthy when you came to see me, but you've maintained that, which is 98% of people gain their weight back within 3 years, and it wasn't like a huge amount of weight, but to maintain a loss and to stay where at the level of achievement it's very difficult to do. So, and you've done that, and I think you've done it with freedom and joy. It's not you're not counting, and it's a lot of I know we went through some mindful eating with the 0, 5, 10 and the listening to your body, and am I physically hungry? What's my satiety level? And my goal obviously for people is not to live on MyFitnessPal chronometers the rest of their life counting things. So tell us maybe what that looks like for you. Or
yeah, kind of what I said earlier about investment in your knowledge about food, investment in the makeup of it, and making this choice or that choice. One of the things I loved working with you is that you showed me, literally like screenshots of if you got to have ice cream, buy this kind, right? If you got to have this, do it this way. And there are choices out there. Like one of the things I learned about was monk fruit. Monk fruit is amazing. Don't do this, but if you take a spoonful of monk fruit sugar and a spoonful of regular sugar and you try it, I can't tell the difference.
Me neither.
And
I love it.
I'm not a sativa or Splenda. Bleh. I don't like it. I could taste it and it's gross to me. I bake with it. I buy the powdered version,
Right.
bake for my boys. Like, you cannot tell the difference. It's natural. It's a fruit.
Yeah.
So that's one of like 1,000 things you taught me.
I'm a sugar person, so it's just,
I know we have that in common.
Yeah, so
and those like Reese's Pieces, like things at Sprouts, like Whole Foods, like just it's knowledge and being able to work with someone like you that could just give me alternatives. And then once you start eating that way, you could still have the ice cream and the cookies and the bread and all of that. You can still have that. You don't have to deprive yourself, but you just you can still have wine, but beers, so cut down, but more of this. You don't have to deprive yourself. You just have to have more of this and a little bit less of that. And you were always like, celery, you'd be like, okay. And then eventually I'm like, but then I'd be like, oh, put olive oil and salt and pepper on it. Like you had this trick with popcorn, not popcorn. It was something else. It was something like you think you're eating popcorn. What was it? It was something. Anyway, I forget what it was.
Like the iceberg. If you do the iceberg and crunch it up, but with the salt and the garlic, you can do garlic salt or Parmesan, and then you just eat it. Because if you're gonna mindless eat in front of Netflix or whatever, instead of thinking, oh, I'm never gonna mindless eat ever, it's not realistic.
You are. It's delightful.
It's okay. What can I find? Or chips and salsa, but any restaurant is gonna have some carrots and celery because they probably have wings.
Well,
right?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because part of it too, and sustaining it is the social aspect, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want to be like the weirdo that doesn't eat, right? Or you don't want to cozy up to your partner or, your kids, or go to a social thing and be like, the one eating celery sticks, and so you could, but it's not sustainable.
You want to be real normal. You want to be in the crap.
You want to be right. You want to be able to be the non-drinker and drinking in O'Doul's and still feel like you're cheersing at the pub. So you're so experienced that you give us tools to incorporate in all of that.
Life.
Right. And so I can go to a restaurant with friends.
Right.
I can look at the menu and be like, the Brussels sprouts or the whatever. I can order most anything on a menu and be so happy and not look like I can't eat anything on the menu.
Yeah,
right?
That's key. That's a huge
and
thing.
I actually, when you were teaching me, I think I texted you. I'm like, I can't eat anymore. This is too much food.
Yeah, I remember.
Right? And my friends were like, my girlfriends are like, you're losing way too much weight. You need to eat more. I'm like, no, I can't. Because it's different. Because it's just different.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fiber involved, and so you're full.
Great. Yeah.
And then fat makes you full, right?
It does. It's knowledge.
Right,
yeah. So that's
it's all chemistry.
When you ask me, if you ask me about how to sustain it, it's investment in that knowledge, finding food that you like.
Absolutely.
Because Stacy's menu is massive, and she likes sweets too. And she I don't know if they know your history. Not
everyone probably. I was close to 200 pounds. I was overweight. 30 years of my life, I struggled with overweight and at times obesity. And so lost that 2012. So I guess, 12 years ago. And have maintained that. And
bravo.
Yeah, a lot of that was self-study. And, I tried every diet in the world for those 30 years only to, have some success and then back. I'd usually lose it and gain more. So, And mindset was huge. Changing mindful eating is something I incorporate into my with my weight loss clients. And you, not so much. You already had you already had a level of health and discipline. So it's every client's different. But a lot of times, if there is, I was an emotional eater, and food was very central in my life. So learning to get back in touch with my body's natural signals and honoring food is a big thing, and even taking a moment to be grateful for what's in front of you, but also to know where it's from. It sounds funny, but where did that food come from? Someone labored for that to get to your table, and we can disconnect. As I think as a nation, we're just food. There's a huge disconnect. And so connecting with your food and honoring your body when it's like we're good,
right?
And then getting away from the food at that point.
Well, and taking time, right? And honoring yourself.
You grew up in France, right?
So Southern California, but my family's from the south of France.
Oh, okay.
So let's pause there for taking time to eat, right?
That's a very French.
So 2-hour lunches in the middle of the day. That's what you do. You don't sit at the TV. You don't eat a sandwich while you're driving. You don't. You know what I mean? You don't go. There's no go. When my grandmother came to this country at 86 years old, first time outside her little tiny village in the south of France.
I love it.
My brother took her to McDonald's. And she didn't speak any English.
Worst.
I mean, embarrassing, right? I think I was at work, and my mother came home, and my grandmother, who I'm named after, didn't speak English, and my brother didn't speak French. So my mother came home, and he said, "Grandma's not eating." And my mother, who was born and raised in France and came to this country, she said to her mom, well, "What's wrong? Why aren't you eating?" And my grandmother said, "Well, it's not food." Because it was in a box. Because in her mind, you're talking about where your food comes from. Mm-hmm. And we had chickens. We had, it was a different way of living. And you have your bread store and your cheese store. You know where your food comes from.
Right.
In her mind, it's not that she was being picky, because she grew up poor. When there's food, you eat it. Yeah. In her mind, it wasn't food. It wasn't edible. It wasn't actual food because it was in a brown box. So... But I want to elaborate on what you said about being mindful and mindful eating. Mm-hmm. I think it's important as women to allow ourselves some grace.
Oh, that's key right there.
It's very important to forgive ourselves for that little extra muffin top, right? If you go back in time, and I'm not saying something profound or what people don't already know, but if you go back through, museums and Renoir paintings, and women were voluptuous, and that was beauty.
Right.
God damn, Twiggy. She ruined it for all of us.
100%.
Right? But I mean, this is a moment in time where beauty is a certain way and a certain look. And wouldn't it just be so joyous if we could all look at our bodies and be like, dang, I look good. However that is. The more important part is here, and then getting your numbers checked every year.
Absolutely.
Make sure that's good. Because if that's not good, that's more important, right? If you're overweight, you got to get that fixed. You got to get that fixed for your numbers, right? Because unhealthiness causes problems, arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, and that's painful because you want to be around a long time and you don't want to be in pain later. Third is the mental part of looking in the mirror and liking what you see, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has this.
A lot of work.
I don't know if I'm going to share this.
Okay.
I bet there's somebody else out there that thinks this. I'm just say it. I call it Marcelle's good arm day. Like, do you ever put an outfit on and one day you're like, ugh, oh God, oh. And then another day you look at your arm, you're like, oh, it's the same arm.
It's the same arm.
Like next week, similar cut shirt.
It's all here.
Like having a good arm day. That doesn't make any sense. It's the same arm.
It's totally
There's
mental.
not been dramatic weight loss or gain. I'm having a good arm day. But that's how I know that the mental...
And it's a big lie. Yeah, there's a lie somewhere coming.
Right.
It's not real. And
It's
we
like-
have to dispel the lie with
glasses.
truth. Yes.
Right?
Like beer goggles, right? But
Yes,
it's like,
arm goggles.
Like arm goggles.
Yeah. So I think that's what we have to get past, the mental part of it, to go, I am okay. Right?
Right.
And if there's somebody in your life that says you are not okay, not looking okay, get out of that. Right? Or just no, because
Yeah.
I feel like,
Get healthy people around you.
right. Like you have to figure out a way. And if you don't like how you look, another thing that would help me over the years, because you don't want to buy clothes when you're bigger, right? The last thing you want to do is go up a size. My advice is go buy some things. You don't have to redo your wardrobe, but a blouse, a pair of jeans, a dress, just a few little items. Highly recommend the Goodwill. It's half my closet.
I love
Great
it.
budget. It really is. If you look at some of my photos on Facebook, gorgeous dresses, like $7.
That's my favorite.
I digress. Because what I found, if I just go, because it's the worst is when something's tight and you just, it doesn't look good. Because the mental leads the physical. So I'll find something, I'll put it on, and I'm like, okay, I think I look pretty good. I think I look good. I can walk into that board meeting. I can walk into that meeting. I can leave my door and feeling pretty good about myself. When that happens over the course of my life, that's when the weight starts to come off.
That's really good.
Because I start to feel good every single time.
I love that. That's
It works.
It's so good. Yeah. The mind. Power of the mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's and people ask, the Ironman, how did you do that? And I said, it's there's the training and all the nutrition is a huge part of it. But the even bigger part of it is the mind, because what I learned is that the body, the physical body will stop if the mind tells you can't. It's the psychology of it. If your mind goes, and it did, I had to kick the devil out many times during training, during the thunderstorm, in the middle of it. If your mind says, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, you're not good enough, or what the heck are you doing in Cozumel, Mexico, away from your family on mile 100, you're not going to make it, all those things. If you read articles about it, the science behind it, the anatomy behind it is your body will stop. Your body will listen to your brain and it will stop. David Goggins, in one of his books, Can't Hurt Me, talks about it. I think he calls it the commander, I want to say. Sorry, Mr. Goggins, if I've got it wrong. But it's like there is somebody up there that is in charge, and it will shut down. So the mental part of it. So if you're starting this journey and you're working with Stacy, I would start to work on that first. And her enthusiasm is infectious. The amount of emojis and gifts just made me so happy, like a little cheerleader. I got little Stacy Commander up here.
Yay!
Yeah. So anyway, the mental, it's huge. Yeah.
And guilt. I think week one with clients, oftentimes it's just that guilt or condemnation. Kind of like you said, the grace approach to weight loss, I call it. But it's just ongoing. The grace has to be applied purposefully and ongoing at the start of any change, any journey. And that's with any area, not just weight related, any change, anytime there's a time for change, because we're so, perfection is the enemy of progress. And I know we hear that a lot, but it is absolutely true.
Yeah. Yes. And recognizing that there's no quick fix, that this is for life. This is absolutely for life. It's for the rest of your life. So I remember the first few weeks, like using the app, which I don't have to use anymore. It's the best.
It's only
don't use the. You just have to learn.
Weeks.
Just learn about portion and all that stuff. But you were, and this is to that point, you were like, it's okay. It's okay. We start diets and we do stuff, and you're like, you go on the scale, and it's 2-3 weeks later, and nothing happens, and nothing's working, and I quit, and I can't do it. But if you just think about, it's a long road and it's a long fuse. Right. So set your expectations to this time next year.
Yes,
I want to be 10 pounds lighter. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, that's not enough. But if you set your expectations there,
yeah. That's you figure. And mine was, I think it was 26 pounds in a year, and that's less than a pound a month. But then it's
But set your expectations.
And the time's going to go by anyway. And what's the alternative? That's what I told you. What's the alternative? Is it a fourth a pound? Which a fourth a pound, by the way, I always tell people, go to your refrigerator, get a cube of butter. That's a fourth a pound of fat. And stick that cube somewhere on your body. So a fourth a pound may seem very discouraging after a week of really hard work, but it's a fourth a pound. It's a cube of butter. And 1 pound is a box of fat, a box of butter. So it puts a perspective. That's a lot to lose.
And as soon as the 10 pounds came out of my mouth, I almost regretted that, because I've gone back and forth in my life, right? French mother, highly influential and very focused on nutrition and weight and all of that. Not to the obsessive compulsive side of things, but just very, very prioritizing that, Okay. The moment I moved out, I immediately bought soda and like sugary cereals, because we never had that growing up, and then immediately threw up and never bought it again. But it's a life lesson in that stuff. So, but the focus on weight, right?
Yes.
So I question how important it is to focus on the number, right?
Yeah,
I think that if you're on the journey like I was, and if you're on the journey with Stacey, and you're like, okay, I'm going to set this goal and I'm going to do this, right? That's one way. But I also think that it's important at some point to not focus on the number. Get to somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then just but I went back and forth, right? I would go months without weighing myself, and then my mother, she doesn't go on the internet, so she won't mind me saying this. She would weigh herself every day, and I always thought that is just
torment.
That would drive me crazy.
Yeah,
that would drive me crazy. However, I don't know why. Oh, I did it when I was with you, because I was like, I was just tracking, right? I was just like, okay, I'm going to track because I'm tracking.
And we were working on so many different things. And
it was, right. Yeah. It wasn't to like be paranoid about it, but I thought it was interesting, because what it does is it's feedback. And I found out this is why my mother does it, not to be obsessive.
Right.
But just not to lose track of, like, if you don't if you weigh yourself like one day and then you're like, oh, this is a little tight. Holy Moses, how did I gain 10 pounds? Right?
Be living not in denial. But if you being in reality.
But I mean, like, if you weigh yourself every day, and maybe you're a person who's not going to do that, but if you weigh yourself every day, not to be down on yourself, or not to be like obsessive, or like, but if you just do it to be like, oh, I'm up a few pounds. It's probably that Christmas dinner.
Yeah,
just monitor.
Definitely.
Yeah, so.
I say once a week is good, because it depends on the person. So if someone's come out of some real food issues, more more of the addictive side of food, and more of the mental, more of the psychological, emotional aspects, then the once a week is seems to be a little better, because they can get so emotionally attached to the number. And then the goal is to get the definition the weight shouldn't define, the number is not a definition. Your value, our value does not change ever. It's unchanging. Our value is set and secure and solid. So whatever we accomplish or do or weigh or look or age or whatever, there's a value of a human being is unchanging. And so it becomes a tool. And that's even when I have people weigh and, people send me their picture, their scale, it's for accountability. It's that accountability, just so we know, okay, if 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by, we need to tweak some things because you're working really hard and we're not seeing the results. So there is some aspects of that monitoring that is important for things to change. Definitely. My teleprompter is going crazy. What's happening here? So I've got questions. Sometimes I break that third wall.
Let's do it.
Let's break the third wall. Richard, how are we? How are we on time? I think are we at 30? I think we.
Richard is so captivated with this conversation.
We were. All right. So yes, I thought we might be there because we've been.
Two chatty Cathys. So okay, so let's end it with this. And thank you. I could listen to you. A lot of wisdom there. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. If you could leave, I've got all kinds of listeners, male and female, but I think women do tend to have there's a thing with weight and body, and like you said, getting a historical and global perspective. I was just in Germany with my son, and I got to see Monet and Van Gogh and Rembrandt, like real life, but seeing all those images, and we were there for hours and hours, and seeing images pretty much from the 1300s to, we did see some modern stuff, but like you said, we've got this from Twiggy on, 1960s to now, this short time period of what we think weight should be, and looking historically, I think just even I left, and still having done that, feel since I've been home differently about so much more gracious to myself and my body, just because we're bombarded with images, right, every day in America, just images that make it more difficult. As if you sit there and see those images from the 1300s, 1800s all day long, just in that one day, it was like I felt more beautiful, right? And I thought, oh, how great if those. What if we were able to change, and that's obviously my heart, is to change that imaging, and not accepting unhealth as normal, but redefining what health and weight, what is a healthy weight? Hayes, healthy weight at any size. It's a program that's great, but anyway, I guess that's it. So. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Yes.
I really appreciate you, Stacey.
Thank you. And so what do you do? I know, real quick one with this, but I know you had a big event today. You want to tell us just briefly what wonderful things you're doing on the planet?
Oh, my goodness.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I think that to relate it to the work that you do, I think that I worked with an organization called Every Child California, which is one of the largest membership organization that helps educators up and down California, and I think that as you go along in your journey, which I would argue that it's a mental journey first, physical journey second, because you have to find that in order to sustain it. I would encourage you to be bold in what you're doing, to make a commitment, and to, when you work with Stacey, to find that confidence, right? Because when you're talking about body image and things like that, if you see women who, and women are the worst critics of each other. If you see a woman who you think is beautiful, what's going through her head is that she doesn't think she is, right? Find yourself and find that love for yourself first. I have found that for myself, and also have, I can't say I've found it, right? Because it's forever. Ongoing, you're always kind journey. Of, right? But I've also found it for I don't know what to call it, my moxie, right? Like my attitude, as my boys would say, my big brain, my smarts, right? And to own it, and to own my voice, and to own, I don't mean like the sound of my voice, but to own my thoughts, and to be vocal about what I believe in. Okay. So I link it with what you do and what I just did, because a 2-day retreat for their board, because when I've started to exercise my voice, both with my job, my consulting, and at home, and found the confidence with health and mental and in everyday life, and just said, this is who I am. You could take it or leave it. I'm good.
That's great.
Everything got better. And the board retreat that I led was phenomenal. They're turning a big page, and I made a profound impact on their organization. I'm very proud of that. And that's what they said. I'm not. Yeah. Whoa, I almost did it.
Right?
I almost did it. I made a big difference.
You did it. Yes, you did.
Good job. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. And
I love that.
Yeah, and I hope to spend more time doing that.
So I hope that rubs off on me. Remember we were talking neurological, how
yes.
I was telling her, I heard a neurologist speak. It was brilliant. I wish I had her name. But how just women, we are what we hang around. If you want to know where you're going to be, look at your 5 closest friends. And that's who you'll be in 5 years. But she was saying on neurological level that's true. So I hope I got some of that from you today.
Yes.
Some of your confidence. So, no, that's awesome. Yes. There's a boldness in you, and you've always been, when I met you, you're very strong and confident, but there is a boldness that you've...
it's 100% of the time now. But it doesn't, back to your introduction, it doesn't mean you can't be humble. Right? There's a balance.
Right.
Being vocal and humble, and also forgiving of yourself.
So, yes. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you for tuning in, and please like us today and follow us, and we hope today changed your life in some way, some small way, some big way. And please join us. We are here on YouTube, Simply Nutrition, Lessons with Nutrition. And if you're interested in being a guest, please feel free to message or like right below. And we thank you. Have a good day. Bon appetit.